Squeaky chair. How's everybody doing? Here we are with our Leviticus Bible study again. We're plowing through Leviticus. How many chapters are there? I don't even know. There are a total of 27, and now we're on chapter 16. Okay, so chapter-wise, we are well over halfway. But what's interesting is when we take a look at the entirety of the book of Leviticus, and we see the ways and how many times God actually addresses Moses. And remember, every time that God does this, he says, Leviticus writes it, the Lord spoke to Moses, or the Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron, right? So every time that they do that, we add them up and we find out that the Day of Atonement section is kind of right smack dab in the middle of Leviticus in that way. It's right smack dab in the middle of how many times Yahweh speaks to Moses or Aaron specifically. So we find that in the middle, kind of a chiasm in that way. And then what's also interesting is, obviously, Leviticus, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, is right in the middle of the Pentateuch, right? So it would seem as if this Day of Atonement is kind of important, right? That maybe it's kind of the central point of the book of Leviticus, and therefore maybe almost the central point of the entirety of the Pentateuch. Pentateuch, first 5 books of the Bible written by Moses. So that's interesting. And the Day of Atonement comes up. We see it happening specifically throughout the Old Testament, but then we'll also see it alluded to and spoken about in the New Testament as well. But this is a beautiful time in which we get to see the fullness of Christ fulfilling the Old Testament prophecies. So let's go ahead and read Leviticus chapter 16, and follow along with me. As always, I'm doing the ESV here. Follow along in your own Bible. If you've read it already, jump ahead, do whatever you want to do. That's fine. So, here we go. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron. Remember, that was Nadab and Abihu, right? When they drew near before the Lord and died. And if you remember, that they brought unspecified, that's the wrong word. Unspecified fire, right? Incense before the Lord. So they took this incense and they took fire that didn't come from the burnt offering altar. And they were burning this incense from fire elsewhere, common fire. And then they took that common stuff into the tent of meeting, into the holy place, right? So common was brought into a place of sacred, and therefore they died, right? The Lord struck them down. So the Lord spoke to Moses after the death of the 2 sons of Aaron, when they drew near before the Lord and died. And the Lord said to Moses, tell Aaron your brother not to come at any time into the holy place inside the veil, before the mercy seat that is on the ark, so that he might not die. For I will appear in the cloud over the mercy seat. All right, so now we've got the Lord specifying. And when this happened, I'm not sure if it was right after the death of Nadab and Abihu, or if it was a little time afterwards. Whatever the case is, the Lord is coming to Moses and saying, hey, say to Aaron that the Holy of Holies, that place where the Ark of the Covenant is and the mercy seat is, he can't just come in there whenever he wants to, right? First off, the high priest is the only one who can do it, but he can't come in any day he wants to. I'm going to set aside specific times in which he can come. All right, verse 3. But in this way, Aaron shall come into the holy place with a bull from the herd for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Those 2 are for him. Okay, if you remember back in his ordination, or the ordination of a priest. The sin offering, because the priest is standing as a representative of the people, the priest comes with a bull for the sin offering and then a ram for the burnt offering, right? So the sin offering is obviously for the sin offering. The burnt offering is for his general uncleanliness or impurity, right? So that he can stand before the Lord purified. So, just like with his ordination, this is what the high priest, specifically Aaron in this section, is supposed to do every Day of Atonement. He shall put on the holy linen coat, and shall have the linen undergarment on his body, and he shall tie the linen sash around his waist, and wear the linen turban. These are the holy garments. So it appears as if there's also on this Day of Atonement special vestments that are worn as well. Not just high priest vestments for the daily stuff, but these are going to be special Day of Atonement vestments. He shall bathe his body in water and then put them on. And he shall take from the congregation of the people of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. All right, so this bathing, right, this is this ceremonially setting himself up as clean. And then he puts on these special Day of Atonement vestments. And then as representative of the people, the congregation brings representatives, and they bring 2 goats and a ram. Okay. Verse 6 here. Aaron shall offer the bull as a sin offering for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house. And then he shall take the 2 goats and set them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. And Aaron shall cast lots over the 2 goats, 1 lot for the Lord, and the other lot for Azazel. And Aaron shall present the goat on which the lot fell for the Lord, and use it as a sin offering. But the goat on which the lot fell for Azazel shall be presented alive before the Lord to make atonement over it, that it may be sent away into the wilderness to Azazel. Okay, we're going to pause there, right? That made it to verse 10. Depending on what translation you're reading, that Azazel, you might be saying, what in the world? My Bible doesn't say that, right? And yours might say scapegoat. Okay, so some interesting things here with this term. Azazel is just the transliterated. That's just a fancy word saying they took a foreign word and then they made all the English sounds with it, and then there we go. So Azazel is kind of how it's going to sound in the Hebrew. We're just making it English and we're writing it Azazel. Okay. So, but there's something a little bit more important for it than that, right? Because we're trying to figure out how to translate this correctly, and not just transliterate it. And I think translators have had an issue with this throughout the years, which is why you'll have scapegoat or you'll have Azazel or some other things. And so scapegoat, the reason we get scapegoat is actually when you take Azazel and when you break it apart, it can kind of be 2 different words, Hebrew words, smashed together. You change some vowel pointings and stuff like that, but you smash them together. You got goat, and then you got to go away. Right? So it's goat to go away. You take those 2 things, you smash them together, and you got the go away goat, right? Or the escape goat, or the scapegoat, right? So we've got that. So some people just say the scapegoat. Others will, the English Standard Version will transliterate it out and just have it be Azazel. And this is interesting too, because there is this thought process of demonic forces or demonic evilness being led by a demon called Azazel. And that's close to Azazel, right? And Azazel's known to kind of be the leader of the angelic, evil angelic forces, kind of second in command to Lucifer type thing. And so was this in play? Is this what's going on? I'm not sure. I don't know exactly. I'm not enough of a Hebrew scholar or Levitical scholar to say for certain. But those are 2 of the reasons why you might have different translations here. Yours might say scapegoat. Yours might say Azazel. Those are the reasons. All right, verse 11 here. Sorry, keep getting drinks here. Aaron shall present the bull as a sin offering for himself, and shall make atonement for himself and for his house. He shall kill the bull as a sin offering for himself. And he shall take a censer full of coals of fire from the altar before the Lord, 2 handfuls of sweet incense, beaten small, and you shall bring it inside the veil. Okay, so this isn't just inside the holy place, but it's inside the Holy of Holies. Okay? So he's bringing incense, and I believe the blood of the bull there, right? And he shall put the incense on the fire before the Lord. Then the cloud of the incense may cover the mercy seat that is over the testimony, so that he does not die. Remember, the mercy seat is the place within the Holy of Holies where the Lord is seated. He is located himself on the mercy seat, which is on top of the Ark of the Covenant, which is inside the Holy of Holies behind the veil. So fill that place with smoke, with holy incense, so that when Aaron goes in, or the high priest goes in, even though he's had the sacrifice for himself, he's wearing the holy vestments, all of this sort of stuff, because he still is in this sinful flesh, if he goes in there without the incense, he will die. So he's got to do this, right? And he shall take some of the blood of the bull and sprinkle it with his fingers on the front of the mercy seat, on the east side, and in front of the mercy seat he shall sprinkle some of the blood with his fingers 7 times. Okay? All right. Then he shall kill the goat of the sin offering that is for the people and bring its blood inside the veil again. So he does that, right? And he does that. The bull is for himself, right? So that he can stand there before the Lord. And now he's going to go back out and he's going to get the goat, which is standing in the place of all of Israel. Okay? So he goes and he kills the goat and he brings some of that blood inside the veil. And do with its blood as he did with the blood of the bull, sprinkling it over the mercy seat and in front of the mercy seat. Thus he shall make atonement for the holy place because of its uncleanliness of the people of Israel and because of their transgressions, all of their sins. And he shall do for the tent of meeting, which dwells with them in the midst of the uncleanliness. So, part of the reason for the Day of Atonement isn't just for the people, but it's also for the sanctuary. So remember, this is the place in which the Lord has actually located himself. He's the holy and most merciful God. But he's the holy, perfect God, too. And so one day a year, he said, okay, because of the sin that is attached to the Israelites, right, attached to sinful human beings, even though they're coming in and they're doing what they're supposed to do according to all the laws that I've laid out, this sacrificial system isn't the fullness of what I've laid out to do. There's going to be something greater. Jesus. And so, because of that, it doesn't cover fully, right? And so the sin of the people is still, in a way, tainting the entirety of this tabernacle. So the Day of Atonement cleanses the tabernacle as well. That's the 7 times that cleansing the mercy seat. I believe they're going to do that again out on the altar too. So it's this cleansing of the tabernacle. Verse 17, no one may be in the tent of meeting from the time he enters to make atonement in the holy place until he comes out and has made atonement for himself and for his house and for all the assembly of Israel. Basically, Yahweh is saying the only person in the vicinity is the high priest. That's it. And the tent of meeting might not just be the holy place and the most holy place, but it might be the whole tabernacle area as a whole. So the only person there is Aaron. That's it. Nobody else. Verse 18, then he shall go out to the altar, this is Aaron, that is before the Lord, and make atonement for it. Right? So atonement for the altar where the sacrifices are being set. And shall take some of the blood of the bull and some of the blood of the goat and put it on the horns of the altar all around. Then he shall sprinkle some of the blood on it with his finger 7 times and cleanse it and consecrate it from the uncleanliness of the people of Israel. And when he has made an end of atoning for the holy place and the tent of meeting and the altar, he shall present the live goat. So now we've got the live goat. And Aaron shall lay both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over it all the iniquities of the people and all their transgressions, all their sins. And he shall put them on the head of the goat and send it away into the wilderness by the hand of a man who is in readiness. It's probably a Levite who's doing this. The goat shall bear all their iniquities on itself to a remote area, and he shall let the goat go free in the wilderness. Okay, so this is different, right? I think this is the only time that you actually see an animal being brought into the tent of meeting, and it is not sacrificed. Instead, all the sins of the people were placed on the head of this goat, And then the goat is led out into the wilderness and left there. Hence, scapegoat. Okay? Kind of neat. So all the sins of the world placed upon all the sins of the people placed on this goat and let out. So this is unintentional sins. This is intentional sins. This is every sin for the people, right? Daily sins are being brought for the people, and specific sins, if I did X, Y, and Z in regards to purity and uncleanliness, I need to bring this animal and do this sort of thing. And if I'm a leper, I got to do all that. All of that stuff's done every single day. But the fullness of the sins of the entirety of the people, once a year on the Day of Atonement, is taken care of. Okay. 23. Then Aaron shall come into the tent of meeting, and shall take off the linen garments that he put on when he went into the holy place, and shall leave them there. So the special vestments, they stay in the holy place. Kind of interesting there, right? And he shall bathe his body in water in a holy place, and put on his garments, and come out, and offer his burnt offering and the burnt offering for the people, and make atonement for himself and for the people. And so you wonder here, this is interesting. So Aaron is going to bathe again, right? He bathed at the beginning in order to put the vestments on. Now he takes the vestments off, and he's going to bathe again before he offers the burnt offering. And you might ask why. And some commentators will say, oh, the reason why he's bathing the second time is because he's done some sacrificing, and he's kind of bloody, and he's got the sins, and blah, blah, blah. And that might be the case, right? He lays his hands upon the goat, and the sins of the people go on the goat. But there should be no remnant of sin on him then if he's laid the sins of the people on the goat, and the goat takes them off. I mean, that's the whole point of it. So instead of this being, I'm cleansing, or Aaron's cleansing himself from filthiness in order to be in the holiness, or the place of holiness, instead maybe this should be seen, and I think appropriately so, that in taking this bath, he is removing the holiness that he was having as the high priest on the Day of Atonement, right? So this is the most holy day of the year. And he is the most holy person not in and of himself, but by office, the most holy person in the people of Israel, wearing the most holy of vestments, doing the most holy of things, right? He is in close of contact with Yahweh as virtually possible. And so he's in this bath, he's actually bathing the remnant of Yahweh's holiness off of himself, so that he can then go once again, and be in the common people and common life in society, and the commonality will not defile or be defiled by the holiness of Yahweh upon this high priest. Kind of an interesting thing that happens there. All right, where were we? I think we were at 20-something, right? Bathe this. Okay, 25. And the fat of the sin offering he shall burn on the altar. And he who lets the goat go to Azazel shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. And the bull for the sin offering and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought in to make atonement in the holy place, shall be carried outside of the camp. Their skin and their flesh and their dung shall be burned up with fire. And he who burns them shall wash his clothes and bathe his body in water, and afterward he may come into the camp. All right, so these are, there's three people involved in the Day of Atonement. High priest, guy who leads out the scapegoat, guy who gets rid of all the extra stuff from the sacrifices outside the camp. And all of them have to wash off, this extra holiness, if you want to say it that way. Verse 29, and it shall be a statute to you forever, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you shall afflict yourselves, and shall do no work, either the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For on this day shall atonement be made for you to cleanse you. You shall be clean before the Lord from all your sins. It is a Sabbath of solemn rest to you, and you shall afflict yourselves. It is a statute forever. This whole afflicting yourselves is basically, this is the time of fasting, this one day a year of ultimate fasting for everybody, and this one day of absolutely 0, 0, 0, 0 work apart from these three people in the whole nation that are doing the things of the atonement. Verse 32, and the priest who is anointed and consecrated as priest in his father's place shall make atonement, wearing the holy linen garments. Now we're just speaking about how when Aaron dies, what happens then? The same thing happens. He shall make atonement for the holy sanctuary, and he shall make atonement for the tent of meeting, and for the altar, and he shall make atonement for the priests, and for all the people of the assembly. And this shall be a statute forever for you, that atonement may be made for the people of Israel once in the year because of all their sins, and Moses did as the Lord commanded. Okay, so again, all of this Day of Atonement is the most important day of the year. And the most important day of the year here. Sorry, that was my wife trying to call. Let me text and tell her. Just hold on a second. I'm trying to text here. Let me text here. We'll call in 10 minutes. Sorry about that. I don't know how to pause the video camera and start it up again. Once I stop it, it stops. So sorry about that. What was I saying? Okay, most important day of the whole year, right? That's what this Day of Atonement is. And it's for the atoning of the people. All their sins are atoned for, taken care of. And the atoning or the cleansing of the tabernacle as well once a year, right? So we talked about the scapegoat, we talked about the high priest, we talked about the most holy place as well. All of these very important things that are going on, and again, this is happening as the middle, the central place of everything, right? If it's not, it all comes down to this. This is what the sacrificial system is for. The fulfillment of the sacrificial system in the Old Testament is the Day of Atonement, and the Day of Atonement's fulfillment of the sacrificial system is in Jesus Christ, right? And so we see this, and this one might actually be a little bit shorter of a Bible study a little bit, right? We see this taking place and fulfilled in Jesus in a number of different ways, right? One of the ways is that he's the tent of meeting, right? He is the tabernacle. He's the mercy seat, right? Remember, the mercy seat is the place where God actually comes to be with his people. All right, so God comes to be with his people, and this is where God locates himself on the mercy seat. Well, now he's locating himself in the person of Jesus. This is where you find Yahweh, in the person of Jesus. So he's the mercy seat. He's the Ark of the Covenant. He's the Holy of Holies. He's the tabernacle. He's everything. Okay. So we've got that going on. Jesus is the fulfillment of that. Then he's not only the place where atonement is made, but he is the one who makes atonement, right? So he's the high priest. He's the great high priest. He's the one who goes in there and makes atonement. So he stands before Yahweh, in the presence of Yahweh. And we've said this before about the high priest. He stands there as a representative of all of the people in the presence of Yahweh, bringing this atonement or these sacrifices of atonement and making these sacrifices of atonement before Yahweh. This is what Jesus does, right? This is him as the great high priest. And we've got that beautiful, and I think we've probably mentioned it before, but we get that beautiful hymn in our hymnal for communion, right? The infant priest was wholly born. If you get a chance, take a look at that one. I think it's 624. That's a big guess. A big guess here. Let me see if it is. Oh, I got it right. 624. The infant priest was wholly born for us, unholy and forlorn. From fleshly temple, forth he came, anointed from eternity, right? This great high priest in human flesh was icon of God's righteousness. His hallowed touch brought sanctity. His hand removed impurity. The holy lamb undaunted came to God's own altar, lit with flame. While weeping angels hid their eyes, this priest became a sacrifice. But death would not the victor be of him who hung upon the tree. He leads us to the holy place within the veil before God's face. The veil is torn, our priest we see, as at the rail on bended knee, our hungry mouths from him receive the bread of immortality. The body of God's Lamb we eat, the priestly food and priestly meat. On sin-parched lips the chalice pours, his quenching blood that life restores. With cherubim and seraphim our voices join the endless hymn, and holy, holy, holy sing to Christ, God's Lamb, our priest and king. This is Jesus fulfilling everything, right? Okay, so he's the tabernacle, the mercy seat. He's also the great high priest. So he's the one who actually is able to make atonement before us, and he's the intercessor as well, right? Also, and he's the great high priest because what happens on his on Good Friday, right? What happens in the temple? Remember? The veil is torn. So the veil in between the holy place and the most holy place is torn from top to bottom, ripped asunder, right? Which means that this veil, this place that this thing has kept the people away from Yahweh, is gone now because of Jesus' death, right? His death has atoned for all of that, and no longer do we have to find a priest on one day of the year to go on my behalf and mediate for me and for the people, but our mediator is Christ himself. He is the great high priest who in his ascension has been placed as that eternal great high priest to intercede and mediate on behalf of you and me and everyone. Okay, beautiful stuff that happens there. And then also, where do we receive all of this sort of stuff, right? We get a glimpse of the Holy of Holies, right? And we've talked about this before in sacrifices, but we get a glimpse of the Holy of Holies. The hymn spoke about that, right? Where is it at? Verse 5. The veil is torn. Our priest we see is at the rail. On bended knee, our hungry mouths from him receive the bread of immortality. Priestly food, priestly meat. Our sin-parched lips the chalice pours. Right. Beautiful, beautiful stuff there. And then finally, okay, so Jesus is the priest. His death rips the veil. There's no more Holy of Holies. He's our mediator. He's our intercessor. He is the place where God locates himself. And he is the sacrifice, right? He's the one who makes the sacrifice, brings the sacrifice, and is the sacrifice. So it's not the fact that he's bringing blood from a goat, but he brings his own blood before the Lord that he spilt out, before Yahweh, that he spilt out on the cross there. So that's, he's the sacrifice there too. And then he's also the scapegoat, right? Isn't that what it means that Jesus dies on the cross? He takes all of the world's sin into himself, right? So all of the sins of the world are placed upon his head. It's a beautiful thing there too. So he's the scapegoat too. He's the scapegoat. He's the sin offering. He's the burnt offering. He's the altar. He's the tabernacle. He's the high priest. He's the mercy seat. He's everything. That's Jesus for you. And we see this take place in fullness, and this we'll wrap it up here at Jesus' baptism. Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell us about Jesus' baptism. John doesn't. And in Matthew and Luke, we get a kind of a beautiful way in which right after the baptism, then Jesus is led out. That's the Greek word that's used. Led out by the Holy Spirit into the wilderness. And that's one way to hear it, and that is the true way to hear it. But it's also true to hear it the other way, too. And this is the beautiful thing of Scripture sometimes, and the way that Yahweh fulfills things, or Jesus fulfills things. Sometimes it's not either or. Sometimes it's both and. He fulfills it in this way, and he fulfills it in this way, both at the same time. When you read Mark, you hear a much more visceral, much more, kind of scary way that after Jesus' baptism, the Holy Spirit casts him, ekbale, throws him, casts him out into the wilderness. Much like the scapegoat there, right? And cast him out into the wilderness. Again, the wilderness is this place where Azazel is supposed to be. So Jesus is the scapegoat, the Azazel, and he's being cast out into the wilderness to meet Azazel. Who's Azazel? The devil. Yeah. So Jesus fulfills it in time and place. Beautiful stuff. Okay, we are right at 30 minutes, so we're going to end it right there. Thank you very much. The Lord be with you.